You know this child. You give an instruction, they have a rebuttal. You correct a mistake, they explain why it isn't one. You ask them to do something a different way, they tell you why their way is better. And the more you push, the harder they push back. Most adults call this defiance. Most adults call this disrespect. Most adults call this a power struggle and feel like they have no choice but to win it. But what if the child who always has to be right isn't trying to beat you? What if they're trying to survive you? Welcome to Dr. Wilson's Butterfly Talk, where we have real conversations about what it actually takes to raise a child who believes in themselves. I'm Dr. Wilson, not a licensed therapist or psychologist, but an educator with over 20 years of working directly with students in real classrooms. Students who argue, who push back, who some adults wrote off as disrespectful, difficult, or just plain defiant. And what I found every single time was a child who wasn't trying to win. They were trying to feel safe. Today, we're talking about the argumentative child and why the solution is never to out argue them. I want to tell you about a story, and I'll call her Brianna. Brianna was sharp, quick, could debate you into a corner before you even realized the conversation had shifted. Teachers called her exhausting. Meetings were called. Her mother was brought in. Every adult in the room agreed on one thing. Brianna needed to learn to respect authority. But when I sat with Brianna, just the two of us, I didn't argue. I asked. I said, tell me about a time when you felt like a grown up made a decision about you that wasn't fair. She looked at me for a long moment, and when she talked for 20 minutes. So again, she looked at me like, wow, no one really bothered to ask me of a reflective question like that. And so that really was a shift in me getting to know her a little bit better. So she talked about her father who made decisions without explanation and being told because I said so every time she asked why, and never being given a reason, just a consequence, about feeling over and over again like the smallest person in every room. I just want someone to explain things to me like I'm not stupid, like my questions actually matter. Brianna wasn't defiant. Brianna was a child who had learned that the only way to feel like she had any power over her own life was to argue for it. That changed everything about how I talked to her. The real problem, when a child argues back compulsively, when they can't seem to let anything go, when every instruction becomes a negotiation, there is almost always a need underneath that behavior that isn't being met. Often it is the need for autonomy, the need to feel like they have some say in what happens to them. And here's the thing about children who grow up in the environments where they have very little control: chaotic homes, unpredictable caregivers, schools where they are managed instead of included. They often become children who argue about everything. Not because they are trying to be difficult, but because arguing is the only place they feel any agency. Now, here's where being reactive makes it dramatically worse. A reactive adult hears arguing and doubles down, gets louder, threatens consequences, demands compliance, and the child who's entirely exhausted by this, going back and forth with the adult whose entire identity is wrapped up in not being streamroad escalates to match. Nobody wins, the relationship loses, and tomorrow you do it all over again. A proactive adult recognizes the argument before it starts and removes the power struggle by giving the child something real to have control over. A child who is given genuine choices does not need to fight for control because they already have some. Here's the solution: what you can do today. 3 proactive strategies for the child who argues before the argument starts. Strategy number 1: give choices before you give directions. That is the single most powerful thing you could do for an argumentative child. Before you give instruction, build a choice into it, not a fake choice, a real one. Instead of sit down and start your work, try, do you want to start with reading or math today? The outcome is the same. They do both. But now they made a decision. They had power. There is nothing to argue against because no one is forcing a direction they didn't choose. You are not surrendering authority, you are distributing just enough of it to make the power struggle irrelevant. Strategy number two: explain your why before they ask. Many argumentative children have been trained by adults who never explain anything. Because I said so is not a reason, it is a declaration of power. And power without reason teaches a child one thing: that authority is arbitrary. When you explain your reasoning, you do something radical for that child. You treat them like they understand, or their understanding matters. Instead of put the phone away, try I need phones away right now because what we're doing next requires everyone's full attention. I don't want you to miss it. They may still resist, but you have removed the moral high ground from the argument. And over time, a child is consistently given reasons, real reasons, stop needing to manufacture fights to feel respected. Strategy number three: name the dynamic without shaming it. When a power struggle is already happening, the worst thing you could do is escalate. The best thing you can do is name what's happening, but calmly and without accusation. Try this. I notice we're going back and forth, and I don't think either of us actually wants that. Let's take a breath and try this differently. You are not backing down, you are stepping out of the cycle. And for a child who has only ever seen adults dig in, watching you choose de escalation is a lesson more powerful than anything in your curriculum. Safety comes before strategy. A child who feels heard doesn't need to be loud about it. In closing, I want to leave you with this: the child who argues with everything is not your enemy. They are a child who has not yet been given a safe way to have a voice. Your job is to have silence. Be silent. Your job, I'm going to say it again, is not to silence them, but be silent. And your job is to channel them, to show them that their voice matters here. Okay, that it will be heard here and that they don't have to fight to use it. Because the child who learns that becomes the adult who advocates, who leads, who uses that sharp, relentless mind for something that changes the world. Don't crush it, redirect it. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be present. So, my call to action for you this week: try one thing. Give the argumentative child in your life a real choice before you give a direction. Just once, and watch what happens. And watch what doesn't happen. Share this episode with one adult who is exhausted by a child's pushback, because exhaustion is a signal that something needs to change about the approach, not just the child. New episodes of Dr. Wilson Butterfly Talk will drop every single week. Subscribe on Spotify so you never miss one. Until next time, keep showing up for your children, keep growing alongside them, and always remember: every child can bloom when given the right conversation and the right environment.